All right, so I'll start off by talking about what is a conservation district. Here in Washington, we are a non-regulatory, locally led organization with the goals and mission to assist landowners and operators to conserve natural resources like soil, water, air, plants, etc. We are led by 5 board members who are Benton County landowners. Several are farmers or ranchers. And we are funded by grants and a special assessment authorized by Benton County. Some of the services we offer include technical assistance, financial assistance in the form of cost share, which I'll talk about later today, and also education programs. We like to say that we're small but mighty. We have 3 full-time staff members, several part-time staff, and we also have volunteers. We do share some staff with Franklin Conservation District. They're just across the river in Pasco, and that includes our managers. I wanted to recognize our sister agency at the state level, that is the Washington State Conservation Commission, who provides funding for this workshop. Yeah, so have we met? This slide is just to kind of connect the dots with district programs you might already be familiar with. Probably our most well-known program is the Salmon in the Classroom and Salmon Summit event. So pre-COVID-19, the local elementary school kids got to raise salmon and release them in the Columbia River at the Salmon Summit event. Our education coordinator has done a great job of adapting that online this year. We've also had funding in the past to do well sampling for nitrates for private landowners. So we may have sampled your well before. You may have heard of the Heritage Gardens program, which is led by Heather Wendt, our assistant district manager, and that's for low water use native landscaping. There's also the Voluntary Stewardship Program, which is an alternative to the Growth Management Act. Here in Washington, I believe 27 counties have adopted this program, and it is a voluntary approach to protecting counties' critical areas where they intersect ag land. And here in Benton County, the district is responsible for implementing that program. We also work with really farms of all sizes, including our bigger farms. So this example here is from working with a dryland farming community, a project that we did up in the Horse Heaven Hills. We also do a lot of water quality work on the local river systems, particularly the Yakima River. And the most recent focus has been water stargrass. So if you're curious to learn more about that or any of these other programs, check out our website. All right, so back to our small farms program. I mentioned that we provide technical assistance, and that can be something like developing a conservation or farm plan with you. Or it could be just something really specific that you want us to come out and help with. And the examples in these photos include here I'm measuring compost manure temperatures. We have a probe that we can come out and help you make sure you're hitting those correct temperatures. In this photo, we are surveying to improve drainage for a livestock concentration area or a sacrifice area. Here we're doing a pasture analysis as part of a conservation plan. We're looking at the grasses and forage that's out there. We can also help with soil sampling for nutrient analysis. And we do have a limited amount of soil moisture sensors for rent to help with irrigation water management. And so again, this is an overview of what we can assist you with. We are here to help you solve natural resource concerns that typically often benefit you and your farm as well. So, we can work with you to create a farm or conservation plan that will address your goals and concerns for the property through the recommendation of conservation practices that might apply. We also have financial assistance available for certain conservation practices from your plan, again in the form of cost share, which I'll explain a little more about later. And we're also here to work with you to basically adaptively manage, if we do come up with a farm plan, things change, your goals change, and so we'll work with you to fit your changing needs. So this is just a list of some examples of why having a conservation plan or a farm plan might be helpful to you. Some examples are to improve pasture or crop through nutrient and water management, to use stock and irrigation water more efficiently, to reduce odor and blowing dust, and also to retain and increase your soil fertility. So here's just a list of some examples. I would say these are more popular conservation practices. We do follow the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service list of, you might hear them called best management practices or conservation practices. We use those terms interchangeably, but they have an outline of each of these practices, explaining how they benefit or impact natural resources. We also follow NRCS design standards for these practices. And I would say most of these are eligible to apply for cost share if you do have a small farm. So some examples might be fencing to divide your pastures or exclude them from water bodies, pollinator plantings, composting manure storage facilities, and windbreaks. And so here are some photo examples of previous cost share projects that we have done in Benton County. The exception is this photo of temporary fencing. We did just implement a cost share policy for that. I believe it was in 2019. So that's pretty new. And this is just an example of a nice setup that one of our producers had with temporary fencing. So exclusion fencing, we can help you fence your livestock out of a water body. And if by fencing them out, they're losing their water source, we can help you put a trough in. Those kind of go hand in hand. We do a lot of irrigation efficiency upgrades. And an example of that would be if you're flood irrigating, let's say your pasture, and you want to upgrade to a sprinkler system or a K-line system, you're going to have some water use efficiency gains, well, significant gains by making that transition. But we also have folks that might be using wheel lines, and by upgrading to something like a pivot, a center pivot, there's water efficiency gains there. We also have some funding for wildlife enhancement plantings, especially if it's using native shrubs or native grasses and forb species. And then we also have funding for manure composting facilities. And we do have a grant for this right now. There are some special requirements for this funding, but if it's something that interests you, definitely reach out to me. This example is a three bin system, so that they could make sure that the compost has proper areas as it moves along in the process of composting. So this is a really basic overview of our cost share process. I won't get into too much of the details, but basically it's never really too early to contact us in the planning process. Maybe you have an idea of a conservation practice you want to implement, or maybe you just want to meet with us and you're looking for some ideas. I would say the key takeaways with our cost share programs are that it is going to take a minimum of several months. Just the process of getting cost estimates, designs, having our board approve it. We do have a cultural resource review process that we would need to do. So again, you want to reach out early. We have several different funding sources for this cost share, and they each have their own requirements and funding caps. So just for an example, probably the most available and easiest funding to get is our local funding, and with that money you could get up to $15,000, not to exceed 75% reimbursement for installing a conservation practice. There are occasional opportunities through grants or the state, through the Washington State Conservation Commission, where we might be able to fund you at a higher rate, or different projects. So again, key items are you want to get in touch with us early. Our Conservation District Board meets monthly, and we basically take the project to them and they decide how much they will cost share on your project. So it varies project to project. It is a reimbursement. So the applicant is responsible for paying for everything up front before we can reimburse you. But before you start any work, you want to make sure that the paperwork is signed and you know what the board has approved you for. So definitely get in touch with us before you get started on any of these projects. All right, and I also wanted to share that we started a Facebook group to connect community members. We might have some in the community that are looking to get rid of extra manure or compost, and to try to connect them with maybe gardeners or otherwise folks who are seeking organic materials. It's not very active right now, but we'd like to see it grow in the future. So if you're interested, definitely check that out on Facebook. And I also wanted to mention some other resources today. I did receive a message from someone participating this morning with WSDA, and she shared with me a handbook for small and direct marketing farms. So I will share the link to that in the chat box before we close out today. But also we have the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. And this is a federal agency, so in most cases, I believe they're in every county of the country. But they have very similar goals and services as conservation districts. I believe their mission is help people help the land. Really, again, the main difference is that they are federally funded, so they also have cost share programs. They work a little bit differently, but those are federally funded programs. And so Claire has provided this list here. Claire is the local resource conservationist here in Benton County for NRCS, and they are based in Prosser. So that would be with, they're co-located with Farm Service Agency, if you've ever been in that office before. And so if you're interested, I think we between the two agencies, I think we do a pretty good job of referring. Let's say if you come to us and we think you're a better fit for one of their programs, we'll encourage you to reach out to them and vice versa. But if you want to get in touch with them, I'd recommend calling this 786-1923 phone number. There's also the WSU Extension. In the Tri-Cities and Benton County area. It's Benton and Franklin are combined across 3 offices, Kennewick, Pasco, and Prosser. And they do a ton of education and outreach. They're going to be able to provide technical assistance. I know Frank mentioned that they don't do site visits, but they, if you contact them by email, they might be able to help you answer some questions. They also offer programs like 4-H and Master Gardeners. And so before we close out here, I will take some questions. If I can get back to the chat box here. All right. Okay, so I guess you can no longer see my screen. Let me put this on the screen here. Because someone asked how they get in touch with the Conservation District. So my information is available right here. You can also reach out to us. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page. You can visit our website, or you can call our office, 736-6000. How small of a small farm? Great question. We've kind of had a loose definition of what a small farm is. And really, if you have some livestock, especially if you're grazing them, even if you have like one steer or some goats or something, we would consider that a small farm. Gardening, not necessarily. If you're growing vegetables or fruits, if you are marketing those to folks other than just your own home, if you're selling them, I think about 1 acre of garden and vegetables is how we decipher the difference between a garden for home use and an actual small farm. Let's see. Okay, so we had a question. Sulfur smell from access port to the drain field, is this a problem? Okay, I will make note of that question for Jody. But I think that's everybody's questions. Like I said, my information is listed here on the screen. And I want to thank you guys so much for attending this morning and spending your Saturday with us. You will be getting a survey emailed to you through Eventbrite. So we'd love to hear your feedback. It helps us pick our topics each year. And this is our first year doing it virtually. So I appreciate your patience as we learn this new way of doing things. But again, yeah, connect with us on Facebook. I will be emailing out basically a summary with any questions that we've missed, the link to the YouTube channel, and any additional resources that have been provided to us. And so, yeah, looks like we're going to get you out on time to enjoy the lovely weather if you're in Tri-Cities. But again, thank you so much, and please contact us with any questions. Have a great rest of your weekend.